this is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. We are thrilled to have back with us Liz Shuler, who is president of the AFL-CIO. Welcome back, Liz.
Hi, Jen. Thanks again. It's great to see you.
It is great to see you too. Now, you are on a bus tour. What is that all about?
Yes, it's called the It's Better in a Union bus tour for freedom, fairness, and security. And the idea is to crisscross the country. We have two buses starting on the East Coast and West Coast and meeting everywhere in between. I think we have nearly 30 stops so far that we're planning. And the idea is really to bring what just happened in that big, ugly bill that just passed Congress, bring it to life and showcase how it's affecting working people all over this country. It's been exciting so far. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. We just did an event with our United Steelworkers Union, and incredible to hear the voices of working people and how this is impacting them.
So what are members telling you, Liz, about the big awful bill?
Yeah, we have members from all across the country who are showing up to these events with our It's Better in a Union bus tour, and they're bringing their stories. They're telling us what we've already seen, the cuts in DOGE to services and government agencies. And it's starting to also connect those dots to what just happened in this big, awful bill, that we have veterans who are a third of the federal workforce, by the way, who are seeing not only their jobs being cut, but also the services that veterans rely on. We have even folks from small business and farmers and rural areas joining us, the labor movement, to bring a human face to what they're seeing in their communities. And so every worker we talk to has a story. They're powerful stories because we're the ones who are on the front lines, who are working to deliver research at universities, who are, bringing the stories of the agency like OSHA, who is protecting our health and safety, and that those cuts are manifesting in real ways on the job site when workers are hurt or injured on the job. Workers who are delivering clean water and food to our communities and have seen these cuts. So I think it's to bring a human face, to bring the stories of workers forward because they are powerful.
And you're not just going to big cities, you're going all through the United States. Tell us a little bit, you mentioned briefly, about rural America. I think people had the impression that Republicans were trying to get a bunch of liberals off benefits or punish blue cities. But some of these cuts and some of these changes are really going to hit home, most particularly in so-called rural areas and red areas.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the lesser known headlines that we don't see in the news coverage, that rural communities are going to be hit the hardest. Those who need services the most often are the ones impacted first. And we represent workers in pretty much every industry in the economy in every part of the country. So we said with this bus tour, we don't want to just show up to the big cities. We want to show up to the places that are often ignored and bring the stories of working people and what they do to really deliver for our communities forward. And so, yeah, a place like Davenport, Iowa, where, we see working people who work right alongside the farmers and how important the ag industry is, just to small businesses and veterans who count on those services after having served their country honorably. They're the last people who should be subject to these kinds of cuts. So the labor movement really is the backbone to bring people together. And this is why it's so important this summer to continue building a drumbeat of energy and voice and power as we head on into Labor Day, because this summer is where we're going to start to see a lot of these cuts manifest.
Absolutely. One of the things that this administration has done is attack information. Their elimination of funding for NPR and for PBS, their attacks on universities, on research, on science. Your members are involved in all of these areas, and one of the things a union can do is to inform their members and inform their communities. Talk to us a little bit about this effort to really keep Americans in the dark and what labor unions are doing about that.
Yes, keeping folks in the dark is the goal, because we know that the power of information really does help people understand what's happening and gives them the impetus to organize. And so this is very intentional. And we all know too that the attacks on democracy, one of the main pillars is to make sure that we have a free press and that people are well informed, along with having vehicles like unions to mobilize and organize a fight back. And so the attacks on unions also factor into, this effort to really cut down the pillars of democracy. In fact, if you look across the globe at authoritarian movements and threats to democracy globally, the most effective way to fight back is with the labor movement, that the labor movement has really been a center of gravity for defeating authoritarian movements. So we take that very seriously, and we know that an educated, informed membership and public is how we, build power. And so that's what this bus tour is all about, is making sure that we get the information out there and make sure it's on all channels, whether it's on social media, traditional media, online media, outlets like the Contrarian to lift up, what's really happening out there, because it's
Right.
not some data on a spreadsheet in Washington, D.C. These are real
Right.
impacts in real communities.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other hardships and really tricks that the administration is doing has to do with the Labor Department. They're taking overtime pay away from people. They're installing people on the NLRB who are very anti-union. Tell us a little bit about how you counteract that and some of your successes in organizing unions. They may try to make it difficult, but you guys are persisting. And in fact, there's been a bit of an upswing in labor organization over the last year or so.
Absolutely. The latest polling has unions at, I think, 71% approval, which I think that's hard to do in this country right now. I think really we're more popular than ice cream at this point. And I think it's even higher for young people under the age of 30. I think it's 90% support unions. So I think that's because they see us out there fighting back. So whether you're in a union or not, the labor movement really is the voice and building strength and power for everyday Americans. And when we're up against the power of billionaires and tech CEOs who, are on the rise with AI and trying to make even more money, you feel sometimes a little powerless. And the labor movement really is the vehicle for real working people to come together and have more strength. So yes, people are organizing. We were just actually at a rally here in Pittsburgh with steelworkers who have had incredible victories that you can point to in places like the South in Georgia, where workers at Bluebird Bus, for example, organized a union. And you can imagine in the South, where there's a lot of anti-union employers who want to fight workers tooth and nail when they try to form a union, but they persevered. And they now have predictability in their schedules. They now have higher wages and safer work environments because they have that voice on the job with their union. So there's example after example of the power that brings when workers come together collectively and organize.
Absolutely. Now, sometimes you get the feeling that this administration wants to create an economy back to the 1940s or the 1950s. But obviously, we have so many new industries, and we do have technology companies, and we do have service industries. Talk a little bit about how the AFL-CIO has really adapted to the new economy and is making inroads in places that, frankly, unions hadn't been before because they were new organizations, they were new entities, new industries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you raising that, because I think there's a stereotype of unions that maybe we are, outdated, or maybe we were relevant once in the past when we didn't have safety laws or something. But really, it's bigger than that. It's about the impact you can make when you come together with your coworkers to take a stand, whether that means in your workplace, you know, whether it's around your wages or your healthcare or retirement security, or even just basic safety protections. But technology, you mentioned technology. Technology is an industry that is growing and has largely not had union representation. And we're seeing now a lot of young people, especially in various aspects of, you know, technology, nervous about the impacts of AI, for example, on their jobs. And they're actually turning toward unions to say, we can define what our union looks like and bargain across the table from these big companies and get our fair share of the profits that we help create, and to put the guardrails or the protections in place for our jobs. And so we've actually been working in tech and seen some really promising organizing that's going on in places like Microsoft and in the video gaming industry, in industries like cannabis, for example, where people really had no idea that you could form a union and actually negotiate protections for your knowledge. Employers often try to get you to sign NDAs or not take your knowledge with you when you change jobs, and your union contract can help you maximize your expertise. Those are just two really quick examples, but there's so many new industries that are emerging, that are growing, and unions are growing right along with them.
Absolutely. Last question for you. You know, many union members are immigrants, or their parents were immigrants. They're new to the country, and they are facing a brutal, vicious, indiscriminate new attack on immigrants, essentially people who look like immigrants, brown and Black people. Talk to us a little bit about the solidarity, the protection unions on the workplace can provide to people who are essentially being terrorized by ICE. These are sometimes teachers, sometimes students of teachers, workers, people at construction sites. Tell us a little bit about the response that you and other unions, other union organizations are undertaking to protect people.
Absolutely. And the issue of immigration has been so critically important to the work we've been doing in the labor movement, because we believe every worker deserves a voice on the job and deserves to be treated decently and be paid and protected. And we've seen efforts to divide working people over the issues of immigration. And that's the idea, right? If we pit workers against each other, then our enemies become stronger and we are weaker. So we believe in the labor movement in coming together to fight for an economy that brings everyone out of that shadow economy where employers try to exploit you, and into an economy that pays you a decent wage and allows you to provide for your families. And so what we've been seeing is just absolutely gut-wrenching, that you can see your government showing up in a place and raiding a work site, where workers are just simply showing up to do their jobs and contributing to their communities. They're not criminals. And so we in the labor movement have been rising up to defend the rights of all working people. And our immigrant brothers, sisters, and siblings are the ones who are the heart of our communities, the heart of our economy. And so this is about lifting the tide, right? The rising tide lifts all boats, and that we're all, as workers, working together to create a better future.
Absolutely. So, Liz, if people want to catch up to the bus tour, or they want to share their story, where can they go to either tell their story or meet up with one of the buses?
We'll have a link on our website, AFL-CIO.org, and it's called It's Better in a Union Bus Tour. So you could Google that, and the map will be constantly evolving and changing because we're adding stops as we go. And wherever working people are, that is where we will be.
Wow, that sounds very uplifting and very exciting. Well, safe travels on your journey and good luck. I'm sure you're a sight for sore eyes in many places in America. So we will have you back soon. Thanks so much again, Liz.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you for all your work to keep our democracy strong.